Welcome back to Real Conversations with Nora for my 36th episode. And my topic of discussion this week is learning how to budget and save money. Joining me today is my special guest, Helen Crawley-Austin, a financial coach. Helen is married to Rufus, and together they have three beautiful daughters. They live in Bolingbrook, Illinois. Helen Crawley-Austin uses practical truths and God's word to help people master their finances and acquire wealth, including home ownership. With an enduring passion for financial empowerment, she provides a support system to help individuals master their money. She founded Mastering Money in 2005, and she is also the Chief Executive Officer of Beyond Consulting Solutions, Incorporated. With her entrepreneurial spirit and her love for God's people, Helen has committed herself to living a debt-free life and helping others do the same. Helen, welcome. Thank you for joining me today on Real Conversations with Nora.
Thank you, Nora, for having me.
You look fabulous. It's so good to see you during the pandemic, right?
Wear my Mary Kay.
Yeah, so it looks so great. So can you talk a little bit about how important it is to budget and save money? Because I think people find themselves in a place where they don't think that they can do it. And I'm of the mindset, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you can save $25, save something, that kind of gets you on the pathway. So can you talk a little bit about that?
So, Nora, I've been blessed to talk to people all across the country, people who make a little bit of money and people who make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the problem is pretty much consistent. It's not really how much money you make, it's how much money you spend.
Wow.
And everybody who tells me I just don't make enough money, I can't pay my bills on time because I always tell this story of a lady that I met in Trinidad.
Mm-hmm.
I did an 8-week session for a church in Trinidad.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lady who came in, and we were doing a one-on-one budget session for them.
Mm-hmm.
And she came in and she was like, look, I want to do well with my money. Mm-hmm. She showed me her budget. Mm-hmm. She made 300 TTs. No, 1,000 TTs, $300 US.
Wow.
And 6 kids.
How many kids?
6.
Wow.
$300 a month. She gave her tithes. She gave her offering, but she made sacrifices. She said she grew a garden. Her kids all ate off of one plate. They never had a cell phone. Now, Trinidad is a wealthy island. It's not a vacation spot. It's really rich in oil. So people have a lot of money in Trinidad, right?
Wow.
So it's not like there's poor people, there's no rich people that there are. But she made the sacrifices to live within her means, even if it meant that she couldn't have what everybody else had. Or do you know she saved enough money to build a house and build a school?
What?
In Trinidad, they don't give loans for your whole amount. You pay 3% down. No. You have to have 50% of the purchase price in an account. She saved for 25 years.
She saved for 25 years.
And built a house with a school on the side of it. She was a teacher and she always wanted her own school. I told her, I said, you are the best money manager I've ever met.
Oh my God.
So when people tell me, I make $25,000 a year and I can't make it, I tell them about the lady in Trinidad. It's really not about how much money you make. It's how much money you spend. Because we have people making $300,000 in debt.
Wow.
$150,000 and still in debt.
Right. Yep. Right. So should you pay off? How should you pay off your debts? Like say you have 5 credit cards, right? And should you talk about that? Because I've heard that you should take the smallest ones and begin to pay them off and then build, and the money. And I think I learned this from you actually. And I've been doing that too, and it works. And so now if I use my credit cards, I learned that from you. If I use them, I can't use them unless I can pay it.
Right.
And I'm not paying them no interest. So if I can't pay the bill in full when the bill comes in, then I can't use it. And so talk a little bit about that, because people don't really know how to, I don't think, and I think that's probably why we find ourselves in those situations, is that, how do you do that? How do you get yourself out of the darkness? Because there is a way.
So I can't take credit for what we call the snowball method.
Mhm.
That is something I got from Dave Ramsey.
Mm.
A number of people use it. I'm not sure if he owns it or whatever,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I read his book years ago and I executed that in my life. And so
Mhm.
that's what I teach
Mhm.
because it made me feel so good. But
Yeah.
first of all, if you're in debt, the first thing to do is decide that you
Mhm.
will buy nothing else on your credit card unless you can pay it off.
Right.
So
Mhm.
everybody doesn't start at zero. Some people
Right.
start at, they already got $10,000 worth of debt. So
Wow.
just make an agreement, put a stake in the ground. I'm not going to buy anything that I can't afford to pay off
Mhm.
immediately. Okay.
Mhm.
And there's reasons why people use their credit card for points, for travel,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
If you can manage it like that, then I go ahead and do it.
Mhm.
The other thing is you do want to take the smallest debt first,
Mhm.
not by interest, balance,
Mhm.
right? And pay that off first. So, for example, if you have a $250 credit card, a
Mhm.
$1,000 credit card, and a $10,000 credit card,
Mhm.
you want to pay the 150 off first. First
Mhm.
of all, you feel good that you
Yeah.
paid something off, right?
Mhm.
And then you take the dollars that you would have spent on the 150 credit card and put it on the $1,000.
Right.
Then you get that paid off, and then you feel really good because now you paid off two debts
Mhm.
quickly, fairly quickly, because they're pretty small loan debts, right? Loan
Mhm.
amounts. And then you take those two payments and you put that on the $10,000. If you reverse it, let's say the $10,000 has a higher interest rate.
Mhm.
You know, you say, I want to pay the one with the higher. Well, it's going to take you a minute to pay that 10,000. You
Right.
will get discouraged.
Right.
By the time you pay that off, you've nothing to celebrate. We
Right.
like to celebrate, and
Right.
you feel like you're making progress. And
Mhm.
that's why you
Mhm.
do smaller to larger.
Wow. Wow.
It's a psychological thing.
And it's so true. I mean, I after I had was on a call with you and I had that we had that conversation, I was like, "Oh my God, this is great." And so I started doing that, and my credit score jumped because they saw that I was, making an effort to pay that off. So I agree with you 100%, 100%. So this next question is a question that I thought of actually for myself. I said this is a perfect question to ask Helen because then it'll give me some feedback on it. Should people overpay on their mortgage? So if your mortgage is $1,100, because we heard something the other day that if you someone told us that if you make a payment, like you pay your mortgage, right? And then you make an additional payment, and let's say that additional payment was the amount of your mortgage, but you did it throughout, and I
Spread
hope,
it out throughout the year.
yeah, then it ends up being like you made an extra payment. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so that isn't, I mean, I do it. I
Mm-hmm.
pay extra on all of my mortgages, my
Mm-hmm.
investment properties and my home, right?
Right.
So there's two ways you can do this. You can
Mm-hmm.
either get a shorter term mortgage. So you
Mm-hmm.
can get a 15-year mortgage and pay it off sooner, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that if you get a 30-year, let's give an example. You get a 30-year, maybe your mortgage payment is 1,100.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a 15-year mortgage, it might be 2,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you have the 2,000, there's 1 month you can't make the 2,000, you're in
Mm-hmm.
trouble. But
Mm-hmm.
you can always get the 1,100 and pay more.
Right.
30 years. But you really want to minimize the amount of time you're paying a mortgage because that's interest. You could save
Right.
hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest and reduce the number of years if you
Mm-hmm.
just pay extra on your mortgage. So for example, like you, if you paid an extra $100 a month,
Mm-hmm.
you would have paid an extra month payment on your mortgage.
At the end of the year.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so you'd have to just you can Google it. Just calculators out there that will tell you exactly how much you'll save,
Mm-hmm.
exactly when you'll pay it off, and
Mm-hmm.
it's wonderful feeling.
Right.
And if you could do 200, imagine if you could do $200.
Right. Yeah, because our mortgage, we're due to be paid off in another 6 years. We'll be fully paid. So
Right?
that's when I really started thinking about it. And I said, I'm going to ask Helen this question for myself.
Absolutely. And some people can do it. They just don't. I
Right.
mean, the extra $100 you spend at McDonald's.
Right.
Like just imagine if you could save hundreds of thousands of dollars by
Mhm.
not going to McDonald's and putting it on
Right.
your mortgage payment.
Right.
You save so much in the long run.
Wow. Wow.
It's just a matter of putting a plan together.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you never sit down and really plan it, you
Mm-hmm.
will always want to, but never will.
Right. right. That's so good. I was talking to my husband about that we just have got to sit down and put that plan together for that because we can talk about it in the wind, but if we don't sit down and actually do it, and thank you so much for that because that's not a lot of money. I probably could do 300,
Mhm.
because,
Imagine.
I mean, and the other thing I was thinking about too is when I sell my books, instead of taking that money and using it for something else, I can take that money and put it on the mortgage. So that was excellent. That
And
was
think about new homeowners. If they start out day one,
yeah. Mhm.
they'll be used to. They'll feel like that's their mortgage payment,
Right, right.
right?
I
So
can
if
tell
your
my
mortgage
grandson
payment
that.
is $1,000 and
Mhm.
you always pay 1,300,
Right,
just act like
right.
your mortgage payment was 1,300.
Wow, that is so awesome. So why do people have expenses that don't fit into their budget? Why do they create expenses that don't fit into their budget?
Because they don't have a budget.
Mm.
A third of Americans don't even have a budget. Probably even more than that might have a budget, but not a working budget.
Right.
So there's one thing to write down on paper, I spend this much on my car, this
Mm.
much in gas, this much in groceries, and like just projecting what you think you spend
Mhm.
and then projecting how much you think you bring in.
Mhm.
But it's different when you track it.
Mhm.
There's a difference between writing down a budget and having a working budget
Mhm.
because you will find out so much more about your spending habits.
Right.
So, for example, we did a session. There was a young lady. She's single mom of one child. They ate out every day.
Mm.
She just didn't cook. She was
Mm.
busy. She had a single, sports and all that kind of stuff. She spent $1,200 a month.
Because she started tracking it.
She was spending $15,000 a year just on food,
Oh my God.
eating out.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine how much money? That's a college fund.
Right.
15,000 a year.
Right.
And
Right.
so people feel like I don't have enough, but if you just eliminated that,
Right.
you still got to buy some groceries, right? So
Right. Right.
let's say
Absolutely.
half,
Right.
right?
But
That's
it's better for you to buy them, right, than for you to be giving them to McDonald's or Pizza Hut or what have you, making them rich.
Yeah. So the basic reason why people overspend
Mhm.
is because they're not looking at what they spend. And
Mhm.
it can get away from you, especially with debit cards. We don't even use cash anymore, right?
Mhm.
With debit cards, you just swipe, swipe. My
Mhm.
dad, for example, he will use the card because it feels like you're not really spending your money.
Mhm.
It just feels like you just swiping.
Mhm.
And before people know it, they ain't got no money. They didn't use it all.
Right. Because they haven't kept track of it.
Mhm.
And so would you suggest, like, for example, one of the ways to keep track of that in a budget is, I keep my receipts. If I buy bubble gum, I keep a receipt. I may not be able to write it off, but at least I can go through everything and see what I've spent. So would you recommend that people, like, say, your food, just keep for a month, try it for 30 days. Would you recommend that? Try it for 30 days and see where you are spending your money.
So we had debt-free life groups across the country at different
Mhm.
churches across the country.
Mhm.
And what I asked people to do, and I had a challenge even on Facebook, and I
Mhm.
said, for 1 month, I do not want you to use any credit cards.
Mm.
Just use cash.
Mm.
And I want you to target how much, so whatever your budget says you're going to spend on groceries,
Mhm.
you take that amount of money out the bank and
Mhm.
you put it aside. And when you go to the grocery store, that's all you spend.
Mhm.
Same thing
Mhm.
with gas.
Mhm.
Same thing with entertainment or gifts or whatever you're spending your money on.
Mhm.
Things that, not your bills, like your electric bill, gas bill, because you can pay that online, but things
Right.
that you spend your cash on,
Right.
don't spend any of it on debit cards or credit cards. Use
Just that.
cash.
Mhm. Take the cash
You will,
out and put it
you
away.
will spend 20% less.
Wow.
You will spend
Wow.
20%. People save so much money
Wow.
because they were doing that. So
Wow.
there's ways to track yourself, and you just do it for 30 days, and it's
Right.
enlightening enough that you start paying attention.
Right.
So I don't tell you to do that. I mean, carrying cash around is
Right.
probably dangerous these days,
Right.
but it's so enlightening. It
Right.
really is, especially for your kids.
Right.
You have a certain, like my Kayla, she had $100. McDonald's, hair, Walmart, Walgreens right there is of the devil. I go in
Yeah.
Walgreens, I have to because you're not paying attention. You're like, this is stuff I need, right? I need
Right.
this. You go out of control.
Right. Because
So
you think it's a great sale.
you can even put your kids on that budget. Here's the money you get for the movies. You can go to the movies and buy popcorn and a drink and spend $100.
Right. That's
Look at
true.
a movie. So you
That's
have to
true.
even control help your kids. So now my daughter has a debit card and she
Mhm.
has to manage it.
Mhm.
I don't look at it all the time, but
Mhm.
every so often I look at me like you need to control
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
you gonna spend on
Mhm.
eating out, and you getting out of control here. She's like,
Right.
okay, I gotta tighten it up. I gotta tighten it
Right.
up.
Right.
So you even have to teach your kids how to do that too.
Right. Recently we became empty nesters. I'm so excited. And oh my God, we looked at our water bill the other day. It is down like 50%.
Wow.
I'm excited to see what our electricity bill is going to do because we put it on a plan like in Georgia. They have like a plan that you can help to budget your. Well, we don't need that anymore because I'm going through the house clicking off lights, and so forth. And I mean, it's just amazing. I think if we paid attention to those little things like leaving all the lights on and the water, you'd be surprised by the time you watch. So we're not even using the dishwasher anymore because it's just two of us. After we eat, we wash our plates and put them away. So, those are things that I think that we don't think of. I'm so excited about being an empty nester. You have no idea. So it's been really, really something, but it has shown us that where our money was going, in certain areas.
I had a young lady in one of my sessions, and she actually unplugged everything at night, and she saved 50% on her electric bill.
Wow.
She
Wow.
unplugged everything.
Everything.
We never left anything plugged in that she wasn't using.
Wow.
I'd never heard of that. I said,
Yeah.
really?
Wow.
There, so. But congratulations on being an empty nester and
Right.
saving some extra money. Now you can put that on your mortgage.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. So let's talk about people wanting to keep, and I know you hear this all the time, keep up with others, but in the old days they say keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
What's your thought on that? Because that all rolls into your finances.
See, I mean, there's a scripture. Let me just see. Proverbs 20. Me and my two best friends were studying the book of Proverbs and Songs for the
Mm.
last 30 days, and they had so many
I
good
know.
scriptures. There was one, Proverbs 28 and 19. I'm getting older, so I can't remember them verbatim, but I write everything down. It says, those who work their land will have an abundance of food, but those who chase fantasies will have theirs filled with poverty.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people who try to keep up with the Joneses are living in a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
They want to believe that they are someplace that they're not financially.
Right.
And a lot of people teach fake it till you make it.
Right.
And then people find themselves in their 60s and 70s and they don't have anything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's because they've been chasing this fantasy versus living according to some goals and budgets and living within their means.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't be happy and do the things that they want to do, but you have to do it according to what you earn and what
Right.
you make, and
Right.
not more than that, because it's going to end in destruction at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day.
Right.
So
Wow, that's
I
true.
tell people you can't look at what other people are doing
Mm-hmm.
because your day is coming.
Right.
Just be patient, man. Like the Bible says, that we are to live according to our means, but the Bible talks about our house being our first business, right? And so if you can't manage your own household, so it says he gave one 5 talents, one 3 talents, one talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one who had 5 multiplied it.
Mm-hmm.
The one that had 1 buried it.
Mm.
And so he's not going to give you more if you can't manage what you got.
Right.
So
Wow.
people are like, I want a business. I want to have this business, and their credit report is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a budget. Their debit card is negative, but they expect God to bless their business. Why would you would hurt yourself?
Right. Right.
So your first household is really your household is your first budget.
Right.
Manage that so that God can entrust you
Right.
with more.
Right. Wow, that's good. So can you talk about savings and how to get that started? Talk a little bit more about savings.
So I think savings starts with a budget.
Mhm.
So you have to understand what you have extra of. And sometimes you have to dig yourself out.
Mhm.
But I believe that you should save first, pay yourself first
Mm.
before you, and automate it so that you don't have to worry about at the end of the month what's left.
Mhm.
So when you get your paycheck, automate, have a certain amount taken out into a savings account.
Mhm.
So that, and I like Digit. I
Mhm.
love the Digit app.
Mm.
I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's called
Mm.
Digit, right? And it
Mhm.
takes a little bit of your money, so maybe $5, $10, depending on how much you deposit. But
Mhm.
they analyze your spending, so they make sure that you don't go in the hole. Your
Mhm.
account doesn't go negative,
Mhm.
and they just take pieces out
Mhm.
regularly,
Mhm.
little pieces out, so you don't even notice it.
Right.
That's how I save for vacation and Christmas,
Mhm.
and I'll have 5,000, 10,000. I probably save
Wow.
$10,000, $15,000 a year without even knowing it.
Wow.
So, and it's wonderful. And you can put it towards certain goals. And you can
Mhm.
say, I want a limit of 1,000 for my credit card.
Mhm.
And it'll tell you you save this much for your credit card, you save
Mhm.
this much for vacation. And
Mhm.
it's really a cool app.
Digit. It's called Digit.
And my daughter even uses Digit. Now she don't have that much money, so they might take $1.17 here, $5.18 here,
Uh,
but she's probably got $600 in her savings account.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
So you talked about in the beginning of this conversation, this particular question here, you talked about paying yourself first. Would you say that before you pay your mortgage, before you pay your tithes, give your tithes and your mortgage
No,
or
no, 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 no. That's why
okay,
you gotta have a budget,
right,
right? So you have obligations to what you've signed your name to.
right,
And if you are a believer, part
hmm,
of that is your tithes and offering,
right,
right? So in order to really figure out how much you can save, you've got to have a budget.
right,
So I'm not telling people before you pay your tithes, before you pay your mortgage, save, and then you in foreclosure. No.
right. No, right.
Pay your obligations.
Your obligations
Uh-huh.
first.
And you figure out what your disposable income is.
Hmm.
And from your disposable income, that's what you save. So
Right.
I'm glad
Everything
you
is
asked me to clarify
yeah,
that,
yeah.
because your budget will show you what your disposable income is, and that's where
Mhm.
you give. That's where you
Right,
give your offering.
right,
You can't give an offering for money that you already obligated to somebody else.
right. Absolutely.
So you want to understand what that disposable income. That's where you
Right,
invest. That's where
right,
you give. That's
right,
where you save. And if you
right,
don't do a budget, you don't even know how much disposable
right,
income you have
right, right.
at the end of the day. Yeah.
And can you talk about before we close this last question? Is it ever too late to start? Because some people think, oh, I'm old, I'm this, that, and the other. It's too late for me to start all that. But you're still living, you're still in the same place. So talk a little bit about how it's never too late.
I'll give you an example. So a few years ago, we have a family prayer call, and
Hmm.
so I threw out a challenge in January for my family to have a debt reduction plan, right?
Hmm.
And my mom is 78. I have an 80-year-old aunt, one that's 75. So they were in it,
Mm,
and so my mom and dad got completely out of debt,
mm,
and they're 78, right? But
mm,
now they're all their income, they can go on vacation, they can
mhm.
buy what they have no debt. They have
Wow.
no mortgage, nothing. They have no debt. And so all their money is disposable income for them.
So
Except they
what,
got house insurance and taxes and
yeah,
things like that.
yeah. So what briefly, if you could tell a little bit about what did you put together? What did you tell them to do?
Oh, so we all got together and said everybody had to decide how much debt we had a ball with it too, how much
Hmm.
debt they wanted to pay off. It ended up for our family about 400,000
Wow.
dollars across all of us.
Hmm.
And every week we got on, and my family is competitive. We got a lot of athletes, WNBA, college, right? So they were like, I paid off 2,000 or I paid off 1,000. I'm that, and every week
That's a
everybody
good
had to say how
idea.
much.
I love it.
And we were like cheering for them, and everybody's like, "Oh, you ain't gonna beat me because next week I'm paying off da 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 da."
Wow.
And we had things like one of my cousins, the bank forgave him of his mortgage.
What?
One of my cousins got a lawsuit that she didn't even know she was in. money from a lawsuit that she could pay off the. I mean, all kind of stuff happened.
Wow.
People start selling stuff just
Right.
so that they could reduce the debt. It was amazing. We actually, I didn't count my sister because she did some huge things. I just took her out their algorithm, but we paid off about $300,000 of debt,
Wow. That
and
is
there
so
were
awesome.
22 of us,
Wow. That is so
and
awesome.
we had a ball.
And
We
so they
had
had to come to the did they have to come to the table and say what they like they had to say what they wanted to pay off. They didn't have to say what it was. They could say, okay, I have like 10,000 or 20,000 I need to pay off.
everybody had an amount. And
Everybody
then
had a
every
amount.
week they told us how much they paid, and we subtracted it. I kept track of it,
Right.
and we just
That
have
is that is so fun. I'm
fun.
just, oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. Well, Helen, I want to thank you for being our guest on Real Conversations with Nora. It's such an honor and a privilege to always be in your space. I always learn something new that I'm going to take back and use, of course.
Thank
Are there
you.
any last minute comments that you would like to share with the audience? And how can they follow you? I know you have a book. Will you talk a little bit about that?
So we've taken a step back. I hired a whole branding company to rebrand what we're doing,
Hmm.
and so we're going to come back big.
Right.
And we're coming back with a. They did a research on the trademarks and all that kind of stuff, and
Hmm.
so Mastering Money is actually trademarked. So
Hmm.
we're using the concept of use money better. It doesn't matter
Mm.
how much you make, whatever you
Use
make,
money better. I
use
love
it
it.
better.
Mm.
And so we will be launching a whole new website and a whole new social media platform. So just stay tuned.
Mhm.
I'm excited
Okay,
about it.
good. And they could always put your name in, it'll probably pop up for sure,
Oh yeah,
right?
I'm on Facebook all over the place. If you just follow me every day, I'll have a scripture on money that you
Okay,
probably ain't never
good. So
seen,
you can
didn't
keep
even know was
people
in the Bible.
informed. Good, good. So will you have any last minute comments that you'd like to share with the audience before we leave?
What I'd like people to understand is that it is important for you to have a budget. And
Mhm.
the reason, if you can't even think about it for yourself, the Bible says that we are to leave an inheritance for our children's
Yeah,
children.
yeah.
And in order to do that, you've got to plan it. You
Right.
can't spend every dime you make. And
Mhm.
that's my parting words.
Good, good. And to my Real Conversation with Nora audience, please follow us on social media on Instagram at BWOTMFG and on Facebook at Business Women on the Move for God. You can also visit our YouTube channel at Business Women on the Move for God. Real Conversations with Nora, rather, excuse me. And visit our website at BWOTMFG.com and sign up for our new programs. And make sure you stop by a retail store where you will find lots of great items, not only for yourself, but for your family and friends. Ask your friends to watch the show each week and share with others. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Real Conversations with Nora. Have a blessed and awesome, prosperous week and make sure you start a budget. God bless you.